Imagine for a moment that the most efficient way to keep your bank account empty is to spend your days steering a gleaming metal status symbol through traffic, while everyone around you is busy trading their financial freedom for the temporary high of a fresh leather interior and a factory scent. There is a quiet group of people out there building massive amounts of wealth, simply by choosing to drive machines that look like they have seen better decades. Now, before you dismiss this idea or roll your eyes in disbelief, let me share something that might actually change how you see the world. Some of the most financially secure individuals I have ever encountered own vehicles that would look perfectly at home in a scrapyard. My name is Nick, and I spend an unhealthy amount of my time obsessing over the tiny life choices that feel insignificant today, but end up creating a canyon of difference in where you land 30 years from now. If you have ever felt frustrated watching some people stack up savings with ease, while others on the same salary struggle to keep their heads above water, you might want to lean in and listen closely to this perspective. And if this conversation helps you see your driveway in a new light, feel free to stick around and join our community here. Now, before we get into why an old car might be your best friend for building a fortune, I need to address the big question you are probably thinking about right now. When I talk about a beater, I am not describing a rolling disaster. I am not telling you to go out and buy a mechanical nightmare that leaves you stranded on the side of a frozen highway at midnight, or a car that requires a heavy dose of luck every time you turn the key. What I am actually talking about is a reliable tool for transportation that just happens to have lost its youthful glow a long time ago. We are looking for the cars with the sun-faded paint and the small dings, the ones with interiors that tell a story of many years of service, and exteriors that will never be invited to a luxury car show. The secret to making this work is understanding the thin line between a brilliant financial move and a total waste of money, which all comes down to knowing what really matters in a machine. Most people shop for a car with their eyes instead of their brains. They walk onto a lot and get seduced by the curves and the gadgets. They fall in love with the heated steering wheel and the fancy screen, while completely ignoring the health of the engine and the transmission, which are the only things that actually determine if you reach your destination. This is where the wealthy separate themselves from those who stay broke. The truly rich buy vehicles based on the value of the ride itself, rather than what the neighbors think of the brand on the grill. They ask themselves how they can get from point A to point B for the lowest possible cost over the next several years. But people who are struggling often buy for the way a car makes them feel. They want the world to believe they are successful before they actually are. They focus on the monthly payment instead of the total cost of ownership, and the math behind these two different paths is truly staggering. Let us look at a real-world example of how this plays out in your life. Imagine you are looking at two different paths you could take. Option 1 is a shiny sedan that is only 3 years old. It has low mileage and smells like a dream and costs you $450 every single month for the next 6 years of your life. Option 2 is a 10-year-old version of that exact same model. It costs you $8,000 in cash, but it has higher miles, and the body shows a little bit of wear and tear from the world. Most people will tell you that the newer car is the logical choice because it comes with a warranty and that feeling of safety and modern features. But when you look at the numbers, the story shifts completely. That $450 payment swallows over $32,000, and that is before you even consider the interest on the loan or the expensive insurance you are forced to carry to protect the bank. Meanwhile, the person who spent $8,000 in cash has no monthly debt eating away at their peace of mind. They can carry basic insurance and they have an extra $450 to put into something that actually grows in value every single month. If you took that monthly payment and put it into a basic investment account, earning a modest 7% return over those same 6 years, you would be sitting on a pile of cash worth roughly $42,000. Think about the massive gap this creates in your actual life. The person who wanted the new car has a vehicle worth maybe 15 grand today, and they have zero extra savings to show for all those years of work. But the person in the beater has the exact same transportation service. Plus, they have $42,000 growing in their portfolio, all while owning their car outright without any strings attached. Now I know what you are thinking, because it is a very common fear. You are worried that an older car will just bleed you dry with repairs. And you are right that an older machine needs more love than a brand new one. But here is the secret that the car dealerships do not want you to know. The annual cost of maintaining a high-mileage car almost never comes close to the cost of a new car payment. Even a massive $1,500 repair feels like a huge blow But when you realize that is only about 3 or 4 months of payments on that shiny new car, you start to see the perspective change. The key to winning this game is learning how to judge the guts of a vehicle. It is not about being a master mechanic, but about being a smart buyer. You need to know how to look under the hood for leaks and check the oil. You need to listen to the heartbeat of the engine when it is running, and ask the right questions about how the previous owner cared for it. Most people skip these steps because they are distracted by the paint job, but if you focus on the systems that actually provide reliability, you can find a vehicle that will serve you for years at a fraction of the cost. Many older cars are actually more dependable than the new ones because they are built with simpler parts that are easier to understand. A 15-year-old car does not have the messy electronic gremlins that can cost thousands of dollars to fix in a modern luxury vehicle. When something breaks on an old workhorse, it is usually a simple fix that any local shop can handle without special computers or parts. The savings you find in insurance alone can be a game changer for you. When you own your car, you get to decide how much protection you need, instead of being told what to buy by a lending institution. And if you get a small scratch or a dent in a parking lot, you do not have to lose sleep or spend a fortune trying to make it perfect. This leads to a kind of psychological freedom that is hard to describe. When you stop worrying about keeping your car in showroom condition, you stop letting your possessions control your emotional state. You do not care about door dings or the dust from the road. And that mindset shift starts to bleed into other areas of your life. You begin to realize that you do not need to spend money to be happy, or to prove your worth to people you do not even like. You start to separate your identity from the things you own, and focus your energy on building actual stability instead of the image of it. This transformation is incredibly powerful because it frees up your mind. Most people waste so much mental energy worrying about their car. They stress about the next service or the next scratch or the wash schedule, but the person in the reliable beater is focusing on their savings rate and building a life that will support them for decades to come. There is also a hidden benefit that people rarely mention in public. When you drive an older car, you become invisible to the world. You are not a target for people who want to sell you things you do not need. And you are certainly not a target for thieves looking for a big score. It is like wearing a suit of financial camouflage that lets you walk through the world without being judged for your wallet. The social pressure we feel to drive something nice is a heavy burden. Our culture tries to tell us that our car is a mirror of our success, but commercials are not trying to sell you a way to get to the grocery store. They are selling you a shortcut to feeling important and worthy. They want you to believe that the right car will make you more attractive or more respected by your peers and your family. But after years of driving things that most people would call junk, I have found that the people who actually matter do not care at all. Your true friends are not going to walk away because your paint is fading. Your family is not going to love you less because your car is 10 years old. And your colleagues will respect your work regardless of what is in the lot. The only people who truly judge you for your vehicle are strangers whose opinions have no impact on your happiness, or people who are so insecure about their own money that they need to tear others down to feel better about their debt. Those are exactly the people you should never try to impress. I remember talking to a very wealthy real estate investor a while back who showed up to a high-level meeting in a truck that looked ancient. When someone asked why he did not buy something that matched his success, he just smiled and told them that his truck had cost him $3,000, and it had never let him down once in 5 years of driving. During that same time, he had taken the money most people spend on car loans, and he had used it to buy 4 different rental properties. His beat-up truck was literally the foundation of his retirement. This brings us to the concept of opportunity cost that so many people miss. Every dollar you hand over for a luxury car payment is a dollar that is not out in the world working for your future. Every month you send $500 to a bank is a month where that money is not growing in the market or in real estate. The compound interest you lose by choosing a car over an investment is enough to make you want to walk everywhere for the rest of your life. If you took a standard $400 monthly payment and invested it for 30 years at a normal 7% return, you would end up with more than $400,000. That is nearly $500,000 that you are giving away, just to have a slightly shinier view through your windshield. Now, I am not saying that everyone has to drive a scraps heap. If your career actually depends on your image, like in luxury sales, then spending a bit more might be a logical business decision for you. Be honest with yourself about whether it is actually helping you earn, or if you are just using your job as an excuse to buy a toy you want. For the vast majority of people who just need to get to work, A fancy car is a form of consumption that delays your freedom by decades. The argument about maintenance is usually built on fear rather than facts. Yes, you will have to take care of an older car and fix things as they age, but these costs are manageable and predictable if you are proactive. A well-maintained older machine can run for a very long time, for much less than the cost of a single year of new car payments. The trick is knowing how to find the reliable models and doing your research. The internet has made it incredibly easy to see which cars are tanks, and which ones are destined for the repair shop every other month. You can find forums and reviews from people who have lived with these cars, and they will tell you exactly what to watch out for before you buy. It always amazes me how much time people spend picking out a new phone, reading every review and comparing every single camera feature, but they will drop $20,000 on a car after a 10-minute drive. The impact of a car purchase on your life is massive, and it deserves more attention than what you are eating for dinner tonight. The financing world wants you to stay trapped in the monthly payment cycle because they know that is how they keep you paying for things that lose value. When you buy an old car with cash, you break those chains forever. You own your property and you control your future and your choices. This independence starts to change how you view every other financial decision. You start to realize that you do not have to follow the crowd. You discover that your confidence comes from your character and your skills, rather than the metal box you use to move through the streets. I remember the first time I drove my old sedan to a very fancy event, and for a split second I felt like I should have parked blocks away. But then I looked around and realized how silly that thought was. The people inside were judging my mind and my contribution, not what was sitting in the parking lot outside the door. That moment was worth more to my growth than any luxury car ever could be. The wealth-building part of this strategy is where it gets really exciting. When you stop sending those payments to a bank, that money does not just vanish into thin air. It becomes the seed money for every dream you have ever had. It becomes your emergency fund and your travel budget and your retirement. The compounding effect of those extra hundreds of dollars every month is what turns a normal person into a wealthy person over time. If you started at 25 and never had a car payment in your life, choosing instead to buy reliable older cars and investing the difference, you could be looking at almost $1 million by the time you retire, all because you chose to drive something that was not trying to impress anyone. It might not make you feel like a movie star at a red light, but while the world is busy looking at your faded paint, you will be busy looking at a bank account that gives you total freedom. Your car does not have to be a masterpiece to get you to your goals. Choose the value of the journey over the status of the vehicle, and your future self will be incredibly grateful for the choice you made today.